He was in Germany. A soldier. Not a king, not a star, just a private in the U.S. Army. It was August 1958. He was thousands of miles from home. The call came. It was the worst kind of call. His mother, Gladys, was sick. Very sick. He got emergency leave. He flew home to Memphis. He rushed to the hospital. But he was too late. She was gone. The world stopped for Elvis Presley. Everything that came before that moment was one life. Everything that came after was another. The line was drawn. His mother was the center of his world. She was his gravity. And now she was gone. The grief was not quiet. It was a storm. It was a raw primal wail that the whole world could hear. At the funeral home, he was inconsolable. He cried. He touched her hair. He talked to her. He didn't want to let her go. The funeral was a media circus. Reporters and photographers swarmed outside the gates of Graceland. Fans lined the streets crying for their idol's loss. It was a public spectacle. But inside, it was a private hell. For a young man of 23, the world had ended. He leaned over her casket, his face a mask of disbelief and pain. "Oh, God!" he cried out. "Everything I have is gone." And then came the music. For any funeral, music is important. It sets the tone. It offers comfort. It speaks when words fail. For Elvis, music was his entire life. It was his language. So the songs chosen for his mother's funeral would not be random. They would be messages. They would be the purest expression of his love and his loss. One song was a standard. "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." A beautiful hymn known and loved by many. It made sense, but there was another song. A song few people knew. It wasn't one of his hits. It wasn't a rock and roll song. It wasn't even a famous gospel standard that everyone in the South would recognize. It was a deep cut, an obscure choice. Why that song? Why, in the most painful moment of his life, did he reach for a song that was, to the world, almost unknown? The answer is simple. The song wasn't for the world. It wasn't for the reporters or the fans, or even for the other mourners. It was for her. And for him. It was a private conversation set to music. To understand the choice, you have to understand Gladys. And you have to understand her boy. Their bond was not ordinary. It was forged in poverty and loss. Elvis was born in a 2-room shack in Tupelo, Mississippi. He had a twin brother, Jesse Garon, who was stillborn. That loss shaped everything. For Gladys, Elvis became 2 sons in one. He was the survivor. He was her miracle. She was fiercely protective. She walked him to school every day until he was a teenager. She worried constantly. When he started becoming famous, her worry grew. She didn't understand the screaming girls. She didn't trust the managers and the hangers-on. She was a simple country woman. Her world was small. It was her family, her church, and her son. Suddenly, her son belonged to the world, and it scared her. Elvis never forgot where he came from, and he never forgot who was there first. His fame, his money, it was all for her. The first thing he did with real money was buy her a pink Cadillac. She couldn't even drive. It didn't matter. It was a symbol. It said, "Mama, we made it. You don't have to worry anymore." Graceland itself was bought for her. He wanted his parents to have a palace, a safe harbor from the world. But she was never truly comfortable there. The big house felt empty sometimes. The life was too fast. While Elvis was on the road or in Hollywood making movies, she was at home. Waiting, worrying, her health began to fail. People said she was lonely. They said the pressure of his fame was too much. She took diet pills to stay slim, which were essentially speed. She drank. She was trying to cope with a life she never asked for. She just wanted her boy home safe. Their connection was rooted in something deeper than fame and money. It was rooted in their shared faith. They went to church together. They sang hymns together. Her gospel music was not just a genre for Elvis. It was the foundation of everything. It was the music of his soul. It was the music he sang with his mother. It was their common language. At home, away from the crowds, he would sit at the piano and they would sing the old songs. Songs of hope, of redemption, of a better place waiting after this life. So when he had to choose a song for her funeral, he didn't reach for something from the radio. He reached back into that private world. That world of him and her and their faith. He chose a song performed by one of his favorite gospel groups, the Blackwood Brothers. They weren't just idols to him. They were friends. He had known them for years. He looked up to them. He wanted to sing just like their bass singer, J.D. Sumner. Choosing their music was like inviting old family friends to come and sing for his mom. It was personal, and the song itself. The lyrics were everything. They weren't about sorrow and death. They were about a journey home. They spoke of a place where there are no more goodbyes. Think about that. Elvis was a soldier stationed in Germany. He had said goodbye to his mother to serve his country. He never got to say a proper final goodbye. The idea of a place with no more goodbyes would have been a desperate, powerful comfort. The song speaks of meeting loved ones who have gone on before. It paints a picture of a peaceful, happy reunion. It's a song of ultimate hope. For a young man whose world had just been shattered, that hope was all he had left. It was a promise he was making to her and to himself. This is not the end. We will see each other again. The obscurity of the song was the point. It was a secret password between a mother and son. A famous song would have felt public, performed. The song felt private, prayed. It was him saying, "Mama, you know this one, this is for us." It was a message that flew over the heads of the reporters and the onlookers. It was encoded with years of shared memories, of sitting together in church, of singing harmonies in the living room. Think about the scene. A room full of flowers and quiet grief. The most famous man in the world is broken, weeping like a little boy. And then the voices of the Blackwood Brothers fill the air, not with a song of mourning, but with a song of gentle, certain triumph. And a song that says this world is temporary, but home is eternal. The choice of that song reveals the real Elvis. Not the swaggering rock and roller, not the Hollywood movie star, but Gladys's boy. A boy from Tupelo who loved gospel music and loved his mother more than life itself. In his darkest hour, he didn't turn to the culture he had created. He turned to the culture that had created him. The culture of the Southern Church. The culture of faith, family, and harmony. He was telling a story with that song. The story of their life. A life that started in hardship, but was always filled with the hope of something better. A life where music was a refuge. A life where love, especially a mother's love, was the only thing that truly mattered. The song was a statement of faith, not just in God, but in his bond with his mother. A bond that he believed with all his heart could not be broken by death. He was sending her off not with a lament, but with a lullaby. A promise of a future meeting on a peaceful shore. It's a detail that often gets lost in the larger-than-life story of Elvis Presley. We remember the gold suits, the swiveling hips, the sold-out concerts. We remember the tragedy of his later years. But in that small, quiet choice, on the worst day of his life, we see the truth of him. He was a son who loved his mother, and he used the most beautiful language he knew to say his last goodbye, which was not a goodbye at all, but a "see you later." The world may not have known the song, but he knew it, and he knew she would have known it too. It was their song for that one final moment, a testament to a love that fame couldn't touch and death couldn't end. He was never the same after she died. A part of him was buried with her. People close to him said the light in his eyes dimmed. His anchor was gone. He spent the rest of his life searching for that sense of safety and unconditional love she had given him. He filled Graceland with friends and family, but the hole she left was never filled. The music he chose for her funeral was more than just a song. It was a eulogy. It was a prayer, it was a biography of their relationship, it was a roadmap for his own hope. He had to believe in the words of that song. He had to believe he would see her again. It was the only way he could go on. That little-known song holds the key to the heart of Elvis Presley. It tells you more about him than Hound Dog or Jailhouse Rock ever could. It tells you where his home was, and his home was always with his mother. The song was known only to him.